Hi there, my name is Jamie, and welcome to another episode of Quick Market Talk with Experts. Today, we have Joey Choy, a top-tier remisier and SGX Academy trainer with us once again. We previously chatted with Joey on the 22nd of March, where he named Genting Singapore and Sembcorp Industries as some of his short-term trading ideas. We are about to find out how his ideas have panned out over the last 3 weeks, and if he has other short-term viewpoints on markets or specific stocks to share with us. So grab your coffee and listen in on our conversation. Hi, Joey.
Hi, Jamie.
Hey, Joey, you mentioned 3 weeks ago that you thought Genting Singapore might make a move towards the 110 to 120 stock price level, and Sembcorp Industries towards the 420 to 430 stock price level, and that you were looking at the 3-week trading time frame. Now it is 3 weeks later. I was just wondering if you are able to update us and our audience on how your view has panned out, and if you have a refreshed trading perspective on the stocks, or have you given up on the stocks altogether since your target levels have been reached?
Sure, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, so 3 weeks back we talked about two stocks. I talked about Genting Singapore and also Sembcorp Industries. So let's just do a quick recap and find out where we right now, if targets could actually be revised higher, right? So let me just go to share my screen, Jamie. All right, so this is Genting Singapore right here. Okay, good. So basically, this is Genting Singapore trading at about 1.16 right now. So I think about 3 weeks back, we were somewhere around here and we were just below, this $1.10 resistance level that I mentioned. That was like our first target. And I mentioned that if we can actually break that level, right, that's where more upside can happen all the way to maybe about 120. So yeah, thankfully we managed to break that 110, all right, and we kind of like trade towards 120 over the past week. And some profit taking is actually happening, which is normal. I mean, the fact that we've gone up by more than 5 to 6%, that's where we can see some selling at times, right? So where are we right now in terms of more upside? So I would say that the support for Genting Singapore would be around the $1.10 level, right? That was pretty much the resistance, which would now turn support. And as long as we hold above this 110, I feel that the upside or the uptrend can still be intact, maybe all the way up to about $1.20. So that could be kind of like the range right now from 110 all the way to 120. And in fact, I would say that over the past 1 week, we have seen a little bit of support coming up a little bit higher. It's not even 110, I think somewhere around like $1.15. Let me just draw it for you right here. You can see 115 over the past 1 week. It seems like buyers are starting to bargain hunt a little bit, right, from 115 all the way to about 120. So it looks quite good. I think anything on dips near like 110 to maybe even $1.15, that's where one could potentially time the entry to get into to ride it all the way up to that same target, right? Our second target at $1.20. So why is this like 120 resistance important? Because look at this right here. Just look at the past, in somewhere around like 2018, right? This was pretty much the resistance level. We can see when we broke down, we started to sell all the way down. So now that support level has turned to what we call a bit of resistance, and we are pretty much back to where we are in 2018. So hopefully we can break this like 120. If that happens, great. I think upside targets can be revised, maybe to like 130 next. That could potentially be the next upside targets, right? So that's for Genting Singapore. Just a quick recap where we are, and maybe let's move on to the second stock that we covered about 3 weeks back as well, and that would be like Sembcorp Industries right over here. Right? So let me just do a quick recap again. Essentially for Sembcorp Industries, we are now trading at $4.33. So this is about 3 weeks back. We were right around here, just hovering above that $4 psychological support level. When I mentioned, right, anything above $4, it looks quite good in terms of the uptrend. We can potentially still push higher. And our target was like 420, all right? And it seems like we have broke this 420 level. Good, right? So we have broke this 420 level, started to push higher a little bit, and we are kind of like seeing a bit of profit taking near that $4.50, 4.50. So I think that is pretty much the range right now. All right, and support would be likely around 420. So let me just change this to green color, which would be like the support, right? So the range is like 420 to 450. I think anything above 420, it still looks quite good, all right, and we may just consolidate before maybe even breaking the 450 to push even higher. And also take note of this 420 support. You can see this is also where the 20 days moving average line is. That's where the short-term 20 days moving average is pointing up. So anything above this green line, it can also point towards more short-term upside. Right. So this is Sembcorp Industries right here. Both of them look good for Genting Singapore as well. Both look good. And yeah, I think as long as they hold above some of the supports that I mentioned, we can still see more strength. So maybe you can share with us, Jamie, how have the warrants that you have mentioned about 3 weeks back, how have they performed, and also in line with the targets I just mentioned, how do they look?
Joey, to find out how the warrants mentioned in our previous episode performed, I will just bring us to warrants.com.sg. Over here, okay, and you can quickly locate the warrants that we talked about by using the warrant search function. I think we can start with Sembcorp Industries. So you go to the homepage, you use the warrant search function to locate the Sembcorp Industries warrants. And the warrant that was mentioned in our previous episode was VJAW. So click into the code. You'll be taken into the live matrix function where the live price of the warrant on the bid and offer side is highlighted alongside Sembcorp Industries share price. Okay, but we're interested in the historical performance, so we click into the tab here. And we move the date to 23rd of March when the video went live. And you can see here that the warrant during this period went from 4.8 cents on the 23rd of March to 5.3 cents today on the 11th of April, 1:15 p.m. And that's a 10.4% increase versus the Sembcorp Industries share price gain of 3.8%. Now to look at the other call warrant mentioned during the video episode on the 23rd of March, that was the Genting call TLBW here. We choose TLBW. Again, we can repeat the process of finding out how the warrant performed over this period from 23rd of March to today, 11th of April, 1:15 p.m. You can see that the warrant has gone up from 2.3 cents on the 23rd of March to 2.9 cents, which is a 26.1% gain versus Genting Singapore share price gain of 5.5%. Now, a day after we went live on the episode with you, Joey, we actually listed a new warrant over Genting, and that would be KCIW. So I just want to quickly point out the performance of KCIW on its listing day of 24th of March to where we are today on the 11th of April, 1:15 p.m. And you see that this warrant gained 30.8%. With Genting shares moving higher from 1.08 to 115, a 6.5% gain. In all of these examples, Joey, you can see that all the warrants have moved in a greater percentage than the shares they track, while costing just a fraction of the share price. Conversely, this same magnified move can work against the investor if their view was wrong. Joey, just wondering, do you have a view over other Singapore stocks? Is there anything that's caught your attention recently apart from Genting Singapore as well as Sembcorp Industries?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking, Jamie. Thanks for sharing about the warrants. I think it's really impressive performance just by looking at the underlying and the performance of the warrants itself for Genting and Sembcorp Industry, right? So, there are two ideas that I'd like to share with you today, all right? And these two ideas would be the SIMSCI, all right, and even SEA Limited, right? I'll just come to that in a bit, but let me just go to share my screen right now. And this is the MSCI SIMSCI, right? MSCI SIMSCI, which one can also take a position on warrants as well. I think we'll come to that later, all right? But let me just do a quick run through of what has happened and why I think one can potentially put this idea in your watch list. So you can see that SIMSCI is now currently at about 309, all right, 309, and we are kind of like approaching this really firm resistance level, and that would be the 310, right, 310. You can see that we could like approach it, we touched about 2 times, and we have sold off, right, and now we are back at this level when there are some signs of the trend turning up. What I mean by turning up, look at this right here, you can see that the moving averages are starting to turn up in the longer term. So you can see that this red line is what we call the 100 days moving average is kind of like pointing up above the blue line. Both they are pointing up. You can see that since last year in 2022, even in 2021, when the trend was down, right, and all these moving averages was pointing down, right, pointing down. It was a bit of a downtrend, but right now there are some signs of the trend turning up. But if we can break the 310, right? So 310 is critical because look at this, right? Just about 2 years back, when we broke this 310, somewhere around like 2020, look at it, that was where the move really started all the way up. It was this resistance, we broke 310, and that move happened to the upside. So same thing right now, we are back around 310. So I think over the next few weeks, if we can break and stay above that 310, that's potentially where we can see a little bit more upside in terms of the trend slowly forming up, right, towards the upwards direction. And that's where one could potentially look at this stock to ride the trend in terms of the uptrend. All right, so that would be the SIMSCI, right? The SIMSCI, the first idea, like share with you. And there would be another idea that would what we call C Limited. Let me just put up this right here. So C Limited, right, listed in the New York Stock Exchange. Of course, we have the C futures listed on the SGX as well, which one can take a position. And of course, we have like warrants that kind of like tracks these C futures, which I think Jamie will share a little bit more, right? So let me go on to talk about C Limited, right? So this is C Limited, and you can see that before where we are consolidating over the past 1-2 years, we have been pretty much in what we call a downtrend. You can see we broke certain key levels right here in end of 2021. Right, that was where many of those stocks in the US market have sort of heavily more than 20, 30, 50, even more than 60%, right, due to talks about rate hikes and inflation and all that. So it was pretty much selling down quite heavily end of 2021 all the way to 2022, right? So all the way as it sold off, and we found some support since like July, August, right, around that $40 to $50, right, for C Limited. So this is where we were consolidating with this key resistance level at that $90. Look at this right here. You can swing down, we swing up, we took 90, we came back down, went for 90, came back down. And we started to consolidate, and you can see that right now we are approaching this same $90, right? $90, as I mentioned, it's a really firm resistance level whereby we touched about 1, 2, 3. There was a support level as well in 2022, and we are back at this resistance level at $90. So now it's like 83.53, which is still below 90. But my take is that if we do breach that $90, right, over the next few weeks, that could be a sign of strength whereby the trend can potentially turn from down to like sideways and potentially turning up, right? If you can break above 90 or maybe even $100, I think that is where the signs of uptrend can start to form. And also look at the moving averages. So I mentioned about the 100 days moving average and the 200 days moving average, the blue line. You can see that since last year, the red and blue line, they were both pointing down. Red below the blue, moving averages were all pointing down. So a bit of a downtrend. But right now, you can scan and you can see that this is where we are right now in terms of the 100 days moving average. Potentially, in fact, not potentially, I think in fact right now it is crossing above the 200 days moving average blue line. So I think if we can break the $90, it will most likely, cross above the blue line. And that's what we call a bullish crossover, which can set it up for the uptrend to form up, right? So that would be C Limited, right? Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Of course, we have the C futures on the listed on the Singapore Exchange as well, and we have warrants. So maybe Jamie, now that I've shared these two ideas on the SIMSCI and also on C Limited, perhaps you could share with us like what are some of the warrants whereby if you want to take a position on these two ideas, we can use warrants, and how do we do it?
Well, we certainly have warrants over the SIMSCI and the C Limited shares or futures listed on the SGX. To see how they will perform based on your target levels, Joey, you can use the Warrant Selector tool on our website. So that's found under the Warrant Tools tab. Once you're in the Warrant Selector tool, you just need to select your underlying. In this case, I will start with SIMSCI. And then you choose a call put depending on whether you're bullish or bearish. And assuming we were bullish like you, Joey, we would select the call. And then we can scroll down to input our target levels. I think you mentioned that if SIMSCI was to cross above 310. One would be looking forward to perhaps a 315 target level. Am I correct?
Yeah, about 315, 320. Yep.
So assuming we use 4.1%, 320 target level. And what kind of holding period are you looking at, Joey?
Probably about 2 to 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks.
Okay, let's start with 2 to 3 weeks. We scroll upwards, we get a 2-week holding period, and we can see that there are 2 warrants being shown here. These are basically the 2 SIMSCI warrants that are on tight spreads. And if we were to look at the percentage performance 2 weeks from now, when the SIMSCI is 4.1% higher, you see that the warrant is 32% higher and 42.1% higher respectively. 3 weeks later, you see that the gains would have decreased, but still making a gain of 29% and 31.6% respectively. And the reason for the lower gain is because the warrants come with a holding cost known as time decay, and it has set in for another week. With time decay, basically the longer you hold onto the warrant, the more it will decay. And so if you keep moving the time trading horizon upwards to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you'll notice by the 6th week, this warrant here, 52JW, is actually registering a negative gain despite the SIMSCI going up by 4.1%. What this means is that for this warrant, your maximum holding period is in fact 5 weeks, where this warrant will still make 7.9%, given the 4.1% increase in the SIMSCI. In other words, you can't afford to have a view that's longer than 5 weeks if you were to select this warrant. But if you look at the first warrant here, JWIW, it will continue to make gains if you hold on to it for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Up to the 10th week, you'll find that it's still making an 11% gain, which is more than the SIMSCI's gain of 4.1%. Okay, and you can therefore use this holding period and its simulated returns on this selector tool to guide your decision on which warrant you would like to pick to trade this short-term view of SIMSCI going towards the 320 level. Now, to look at how a C warrant will perform using this tool, we can choose C. And by C here, we refer to the C single stock futures listed on the SGX, which means investors can trade the C stock futures or its warrants during the Singapore trading hours rather than stay up overnight to watch how C stock performs in the US. And the whole purpose of the single stocks futures being listed here on the Singapore Exchange during Singapore trading hours is so that investors can hold a view over a Singapore listed company during Singapore trading hours. So if you are bullish, like Joey, we'll select once again a call, and we will be here in this select target price field to see what our upside gain is. And Joey, I believe you mentioned $90?
Yep, correct. $90 will be kind of like the near-term target, and hopefully that breach, and we might push towards maybe about 100.
Okay, and we will try with $90 first, which is 7.1% higher from here. Again, assuming a 2-week holding period that you mentioned, this warrant will gain 19.4%. Now, there's only one warrant listed over C, and that is this warrant, ICPW. Okay, over 3 weeks, it will gain 15.3%. And if we go higher, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, by the 6th week, what you will notice is this warrant is gaining only 6.9%, which is less than the stock's gain of 7.1%. Again, due to the time decay being set in, that erodes the gearing effect made available by this warrant otherwise, meaning there is no geared return. In fact, the return is less than the share price. That's because of the really short tenure of this warrant, where its expiry is 1 month from now, 31st of May. However, if you have a higher target price of 110, Joey, do you say that?
Yep, about 110.
Okay, in that case, you'll find that 6 weeks from now, it will make 111%, okay, which is about close to 4 times of what the stock's return will be. So in this case, the higher your share price target and the more the stock moves in your favor, the more the warrant will generate geared returns that offsets the time decay. So with that, I hope, Joey, you have understood how the warrants will work. And again, the selector tool and its application can be applied to the Genting shares as well as Sembcorp Industries shares, for which you have got a refreshed viewpoint for.
Thanks for sharing, Jamie. Great that we can use this tool to kind of like project the returns, not just based on like the price, but also based on the time frame. I think that's really useful. All right, and I think my warrants knowledge has improved each time we come on these quick market talk sessions together.
Thanks, Joey. I'm looking forward to seeing how the SIMSCI and SEA stocks will perform over the next month. Hoping you will once again be spot on as you were with Genting Singapore and Sembcorp Industries. For those who wish to be notified of the next video, make sure you subscribe or follow our YouTube channel. I'll catch you next time, Joey.
Thank
Bye
you,
for
Jamie.
now.
Bye.
Bye all.